Hello everyone, this is Showtime 112. Macchi C.205 was the ultimate achievement in Italian World War II fighter design. Early Italian fighters suffered from lack of power, and the solution was found in a license-built German Daimler-Benz DB601 engine. Macchi modified their earlier C200 for the new engine, and the result was a C202 Folgore. The airplane had a greatly improved performance, although it still lacked firepower. As the Allied air power grew, Regia Aeronautica required another improvement, and the solution was found in an even more powerful Daimler-Benz DB605 engine. This power plant with the output of 1,475 horsepower was installed in an airframe based very closely on the previous model, and the result was Macchi C.205V, Veltro, or Greyhound. The initial Series 1 still lacked firepower with only 4 machine guns, while the later series had 2 Mauser 20mm cannons in the wings. The first deliveries began in October 1942, but due to various difficulties, only 177 of these fighters were produced before the armistice of September 1943. Despite its qualities, the Veltro couldn't make any significant impact in the fight against the Allies. But World War II was not the final engagement for this Italian fighter. In 1947, Macchi relaunched the production of the C.205 using the surviving components, but also converting some existing C.202s into C.205s. When an Egyptian delegation inquired about a possible fighter purchase, the Italians were able to offer the Macchi fighter along with another similar design, Fiat G55. The Egyptians ordered both models. The total order for the C.205 was 80 examples, most of them reconditioned C.202s. Only 15 of those were delivered before the end of the First Arab-Israeli War, but they were heavily involved in the fighting. 5 of them were newly built models, and 10 were converted C.202s. The airplanes arrived to Egypt in crates. They were then assembled and given a camouflage paint very similar to RAF's Desert Air Force. They were delivered to the No. 2 Squadron based at Al Arish Air Base in the Sinai Peninsula. This unit also operated Spitfires, while another squadron in the same base was receiving Fiat G55s at the time. There are indications that the Macchis first encountered the Israeli Air Force as early as 21st of October 1948. But the first official combat took place on 22nd of December. Israelis launched a major offensive and they were trying to put pressure on Egyptian air bases in Sinai. 2 Israeli pilots, Rudi Augarten and Jack Doyle, were on an armed recon mission over Al Arish in their Spitfires. Both were World War II veterans. Augarten flew P-47 Thunderbolts and was credited with shooting down 2 German aircraft. Doyle flew Spitfires for the Royal Canadian Air Force and was credited with victories against 4 Axis aircraft. Augarten spotted a dark shape through the noonday haze flying near the Egyptian airbase. This wasn't a Spitfire, and Israeli pilots knew that Egypt had introduced new Italian fighters. One of them was in the traffic pattern at El Arish, about to land. Augarten placed himself behind the Egyptian fighter and opened fire. The engagement was over quickly. Flight Lieutenant Shalabi Al-Hinavi was seriously wounded in his head and legs, but still managed to crash land his Macchi fighter near the runway. Unlike the Egyptian pilot, the anti-aircraft gunners were not caught by surprise and they opened fire at Algarten's Spitfire, which stayed fast and low until well clear of the base. Algarten was credited with a kill of a Fiat fighter. Israeli pilots would often confuse the two Italian types, and in most cases they refer to them as Fiats, even though Egyptians use the Macchi fighter much more frequently. The next day, 23rd of December, saw an Egyptian attack on Israeli Tel Nof airfield. Several C.205s participated along with some Spitfires. The attack was unopposed by Israeli fighters, but other than that, no other details are known. December 28, 1948 saw the next clash between Egyptian Macchis and Israeli fighters. Two Israeli Spitfires flown by Jack Doyle and Gordon Levitt encountered a number of Egyptian C.205s and a single Spitfire over Gaza Strip. Levitt was the only English non-Jew who joined the Israeli Air Force in the Independence War. Both sides apparently overclaimed in the dogfight which developed. Israeli side was credited with 3 kills, Jack Doyle with a Macchi and Gordon Levitt with a Macchi and a Spitfire. Egyptian side claimed downing of 2 Israeli aircraft with 2 others damaged. One of the damaged aircraft was supposedly an Avia S-199. Egypt admitted the loss of 1 Macchi flown by pilot officer Abed Fattah Said, whose aircraft crashed into the sea. It seems like there was only one certain kill in this battle, the Macchi flown by pilot officer Said, who was shot down by Doyle. Israeli records don't indicate that any of the Spitfires were damaged, and no sortie by S-199s was taken on that day. On 30 December, 2 Macchis flown by Egyptian No. 5 Squadron Commander, Squadron Leader Kamal Abd al-Wahab, and Flight Lieutenant Khalif al-Arusi attacked Israeli ground positions at Abu Agela in the Sinai. But as they were circling low over the encampment, they were bounced by 2 Israeli Spitfires flown by Jack Doyle and John McElroy. Just like Doyle, McElroy was a World War II veteran who had flown for the Royal Canadian Air Force. He was credited with 11 victories against the Luftwaffe. Jack Doyle approached one of the Macchis and opened fire from about 200 yards. The Egyptian Macchi started trailing smoke and soon dropped off towards the desert. John McElroy attacked the second Macchi as it was pulling away from a strafing run. But this Egyptian pilot demonstrated serious skill and aggression. He managed to evade McElroy's fire and after some maneuvering, placed himself on the tail of Jack Doyle. McElroy fired a long burst at the Macchi, which then turned back into his Spitfire. The pair initiated a high-G dogfight. Despite the obvious skill of the Egyptian pilot, McElroy was able to work his way behind the Macchi's tail. He opened fire and his hits sent the Egyptian fighter into an uncontrolled dive towards the desert. Neither of the two Egyptian pilots survived the encounter. Again, Israeli pilots reported fighting Fiats instead of Macchis. Doyle and McElroy were surprised by the skills and aggressive attitude of the second Egyptian pilot, something which they generally didn't demonstrate. This led to speculation of Egypt hiring ex-Luftwaffe or even American pilots to fly for them. But these speculations were never confirmed, and it is now believed that all of the Egyptian airplanes were flown by Egyptian pilots. This was part 1 of our video about Macchi C.205V in Egyptian service. Be sure to press the like button if you enjoyed the video, as it's a huge help to the channel. You can help even more by joining our Patreon supporters or by donating on PayPal. Don't miss part 2 when it comes out. Thank you and keep watching Showtime 112.